One. All right, welcome to the Insight Cafe. It's my awesome podcast where I hang out with my friends, colleagues, and creators. And this podcast really started from me having really amazing conversations that I think would just be really beneficial to everybody to listen in. So today I have my good friend, colleague, and brother from Italy, Nico Olivieri. Boom. Nico's the best coach in Italy because he's the only coach in Italy I know. So a little bit about Nico. You and me met through Michael Neal's Super Coach Academy. We were in the same class. Nico has a coaching consulting business in Italy called Easier Coaching, where you help businesses and people thrive in their ecosystems, and the ecosystem thrive as well. And you are also the founder of No Way, which is where you put all your amazing writing. Nico is an amazing and beautiful writer. If you're watching this, please go check out Nico's writing. I'll put a link in the description. And very recently you found CCC, which is Creatives and Change Makers Club, which is a project aimed at co-creating solutions with really cool people in your community. Did I miss anything?
That is perfect.
Is there anything you'd like to?
Yeah, no, it's exciting to be here, and yeah, like maybe I'm not the only coach in Italy, but
you're the only coach in Italy in my heart.
I love that. That's all that matters.
So I've invited you here to blow shit up in our conversation.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the topic I'd love to explore with you is you were made to thrive. And in one of our conversations that sparked my invitation to you to be on this podcast is the idea that there's a way that we're meant to work. There is a way that our minds are meant to work, the way that we're meant to function with the way our minds work. And I thought that was really cool because I thought that, you know what, if there is that way, I wish somebody would have told me sooner. And the picture that came to my mind is, it's like if you have a car with a gear shift, right? Or if you don't, like any car, and you don't know how to work that car, you're gonna have a hard time using that vehicle to its highest potential, right? It'd be like sitting in a really nice, like really fast car and not knowing how to use the gear stick or not knowing how to put it in gear. Like it's frustrating and it's annoying. And I wonder if in this podcast we pointed people even to get a glimpse of how their minds work, and if they can align themselves with that, if their lives might not be easier, if they might not have an easier time in their relationships and their businesses.
Yeah, you see, I think when we had that conversation you were referring to, kind of like, I think that the thing I've been thinking over kind of past couple of months is coming from, I don't know if you had this feeling as well, like it seems quite common, but sometimes I don't know, I look around and just like, okay, this is not making much sense to me, and when I say this, it's like anything from like, close or on a global scale, like, we look and say like, there has to be a better way. That I think it's a feeling that is I think we can all relate to at some point, right? Like the sense of like, even maybe like, but in theory, I'm doing the right things and this should be different, and it's kind of that sparked kind of some reflections for me to kind of, as you said, like maybe there is something we're missing at the source, like kind of at the beginning, which even if, if you have a faulty premise, let's say, then even if you do all the right things after, it's still not going to make sense. An image that comes to mind is, if you're on quicksands, right? You can have the best architects and do just the right things to make a building. You look, it's like, yeah, but I don't get it. Like, we put the foundation, we did the thing, we calculated the right stuff, we got the best materials. Why is this building just keep like falling apart and it doesn't work? That was my experience. That kind of was sparked
Well,
this
like,
reflection.
can you tell me maybe a story in your life when that was, when you saw that for yourself? Like you were trying to do all the right things, but like things just kept falling apart or sinking. I mean, um, I can share mine. I think in uh, in Taekwondo, as Taekwondo athlete, right? I had this premise as if I could kick stronger, if I could kick faster, if I could move faster, like that would be enough for me to be a great athlete. And I wasn't, and it was such a struggle to just compete and win and get to where I wanted to be. And then later in my career, where I found really amazing Taekwondo coaches, and the things they taught me were the furthest thing away from trying to be faster, better, or stronger. They taught me how to understand the game. They taught me how to understand distance and timing and rhythm. And those were the things that made the game far easier for me. Like I was winning and not breaking a sweat because I understood how the game worked. And I saw the premise of um, that I was really just operating on faulty premises in the beginning of my Taekwondo career versus the later parts. What did you hear in that, or do you have a
It
similar
totally
story?
resonate, and I think it's we think about the action. You kind of like, oh, but I showed up to the gym and and I'm doing the practice, and I'm just thinking, why is it not working? It's just that it's not our fault, it's an innocent thing, because if you're not seeing that, like, it doesn't matter, you can put your best effort, but on a faulty premise, it's just going to be hard. And to me, I definitely had that experience in my business previously. Over the years, I started different businesses, and like, I remember having the conversation. Like, for example, there was one that I ran with my wife when I was in Ireland, and in that business, I remember having conversations like, I don't get it. Look, we're smart people. We're doing the thing. The product is outstanding. We are getting, but it feels so hard. Like, I know we're missing something. Like, the thing was actually growing. We were exporting, but there was this sense, it was actually hard. And I think that's a good flag. For anyone's listening, I think a great red flag to understand, oh, maybe that's kind of where you're at right now, is when you have the sense of there must be something missing, yet you're not quite sure. You can't really put your finger on it. It's not obvious. It's not like, oh yeah, what's missing is this, it's often that sense, like, yeah, we're doing the right things and stuff is happening, but so that was definitely an experience. And I think another way is when you just don't get the outcome you would expect. Like, I think of this, for example, let's kind of change completely place to look at. If you look at global change and positive impact, kind of the world we're co-creating together, I sometimes look and say, okay, hang on a second. The funds are there because they're there. The will, like, people, there are a lot of well-meaning people, right? Trying. The information, we're flooded. There are podcasts, books, documentaries, famous people talking on stages about what we need to do. There have been decades and decades of meetings at the UN or whatever, of people coming together, trying to make sense. Like, and there have been millions of people on the street, and there's a lot of energy and effort and information that already has been poured on issues of global interest. But then you look and say, like, there is a disconnect between the amount of resources and effort and energy put by people globally into this for 30 years and the feeling like, yet I kind of feel like we're still having the same conversation as 30 years ago. You don't really see the impact. So I think that's kind of, those are all situations where I think the instinct is, okay, well, then let's think something else. Let's make a different conference. Let's make a different book. But I think, no, maybe we're doing the right things. It's just that they're landing on quicksand. That there's something at the origin that we're not getting, right? And the last kind of image now, as I was talking, came to mind. Imagine it's like we all have these incredible, beautiful broadcasts of information and stuff, of change, but it doesn't matter what we broadcast and the quality of the content if everyone has the radio turned off.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then I can see, I love your quote, and that's so quotable. I love how you hit it like right off the bat is you can put your best efforts, but if you're operating on a faulty premise, you're it's still not going to take you very far. And so like you can be really loud and really empowered and really big about your impact you want to make, but if you're aiming at the wrong thing or people's radios are turned off, they're not going to hear you. So what where can we look instead? Where is a better place to look to align with um, the way your mind does work, the way we do work, to create better results with less stress, less effort and pressure?
Well, I think it's a really cool question to keep exploring. That's kind of as a premise, you know, it's not the kind of question, you and I know that, you know, in our profession, it's not the kind of question where you're like, okay, here's the answer. Okay, cool, thanks, you know, but.
Yeah, wait right here. That the answer to life is on aisle 5.
Exactly. Section B, you know, on the third shelf. But so that said, I think so. One of the things is already being open to look. Like I think that is the first bit. Even before wondering where do I look, does it make, like, is something as you hear this, they're like, oh, you know, maybe it's true. Maybe there is something you're not seeing at the beginning of this, you know, at the source. That's initially it's essential, because if there's not, if the opening of maybe there is something I'm misunderstanding, if the opening is not there, the willingness, the intention of seeing, I think we could also look exactly in the right direction and we wouldn't see anything. Because it's like looking, I can tell you that the answer is that way, but the first thing is you got to open your eyes, right? Otherwise I can turn my head and still not going to look at it, see
Right.
anything.
So I love, so to me in reflecting is what I heard in that was, I think when we get really urgent and like we get really frustrated, we do that thing that it's like, well, where's the answer, Nico? Like which aisle, which book do I read to, like, we're looking for wisdom outside of us. And to what you're pointing to is like, you might want to open your eyes first.
That is,
like,
yes.
yeah.
And I realized that I kind of made that metaphor, but I listening you saying it sounded beautiful. Yeah.
You're welcome. A gift for you from Thailand. So
yes,
and that's
yes.
true, right? Because I think most of us don't know that our eyes are closed and we're desperately trying to reach for shit.
Dude, you actually made an
Blindfolded.
incredible point here. I think there's a step before. It's not even about being willing to open your eyes. The first step is let's start agreeing on the fact that maybe, or considering maybe your eyes are closed. Our eyes are closed. That's even before opening, because if I think they're already open, then it sounds weird. Like, you know, like you're telling me to open my eyes, but they are open. So done. Yeah.
It reminds me of a story. It's kind of embarrassing, but I went to go test drive Mercedes-Benz, right? And I've never test driven a Mercedes-Benz car. And I get in, and in every other car I've ever been in, the gear shift is in the middle of the car, right? If you sit in the car, it's like it's in the middle console. So in this car, it was not there.
Okay. This car is
And
broken.
so I was doing my best to look like, well, I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, after about like 5 minutes of awkwardness and the sales lady sitting behind me, she's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, where's the gear shift? She's like, oh, it's next to the steering wheel. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, totally knew that. I mean, it was innocent.
Obviously.
Obviously. But to me, it was like I didn't even know where to begin to look, right? So it's just if I slow down and actually like look to where I might not have normally looked, right? I think that's the thing, when you slow down and you realize your eyes are closed and you begin to open them, you begin to look in places where you wouldn't normally look. And then you'll see a whole new world, which opens up a whole new possibility.
Yes. It's like, and do you find that, because it sounds easy,
Yeah.
in a way, but do you find also, especially maybe, I don't know, say in the business world, often there is a bit of a culture where, like, I notice it can make people, definitely, I had that experience too myself at the beginning, or almost, make people feel defensive. It's a kind of like,
Yeah.
kind of what you said now in the car. There was a part of like, no, I got it. I know it. I know.
Yeah.
And I think getting comfortable with another way of saying what the first step could be, comparable to the opening eyes, is starting to get comfortable with I don't know as an answer.
I was just thinking about that. And I can see how, premise, right? To everybody listening who doesn't know what a premise is, a premise is an idea that you're operating on, that you're using to operate your life. And so I can see how if you're operating on a premise where you're supposed to know everything, or your value comes from, I'm the hotshot leader and I have all the answers to every single problem that exists, then admitting you don't know might be hard.
Yeah.
Like that might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah. And here's the thing, actually, I know I said getting comfortable with, I don't know, I guess that could be a first step, but the potential is to fall in love with, I don't know. It's not just like, okay, you know what, I worked on myself and now I accept when I don't know something and I can say it. It's to like starting to see that that's the best possible play. When you find yourself as like, oh, I have no clue. That is where you want to be, right? That is where new stuff can happen. It's the only place where you can have a new idea if you don't know, because then you're looking.
So pointing back to the original point of you were made to thrive. And so if we kind of tie these 2 points together of what if a big part of thriving is learning that you work really well when you sit in I don't know and you let your mind wander.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
Absolutely. And I think this, if you think about it, we say you were made to try. So here is not you have the potential to try. It's you were made to try.
Yeah.
So what we're saying here is not about it cannot be something about like, oh, what do I have to tweak about myself, or what do I have to learn or add that can make me try? It's like, the thing is, if this is true, if we were made to try, then the question is, what is it that gets in the way, right? And that's a different way of look, because we use, even people want to like, oh, I want to get better, I want to work on myself. There's the idea of, given that if I don't do anything, I kind of am flawed and and it all sucks. Like how, I believe that I have the potential to try. Help me with that. We're saying it's not actually in the with the right conditions, right? If you can wake up to a world where I don't know is where you're supposed to be, rather than a place to avoid, where what your creative expression, and when I mean creative expression, I mean anything. It could be a business, it could be a relationship, right? Anything you engage with is just never about you, ever. Right? I think there are a number of kind of conditions that if you look at a kid, we come to the world with already with that, and then we override them by some, we learn like, no, I don't know, it's really bad, you don't want that. The word is totally about you. It's about you, your grades, your success, you want to be different. And it's and then to me, if it's okay, like I hear a lot this story, and I spoke about this somewhere else recently, but we have this metaphor, right, of the kid, right? Oh, look at the children, we all come. Truth, at least in my case, my child, he has insecurities, he thinks he struggles, right? And then he's happy. Like, I'm not sure if the sentence is, oh, children are the example of freedom of mind and creativity and bliss,
Yeah.
It doesn't look true to me, okay? But what does look true to me is kind of, let's look at, well, for a kid, I don't know, it's really the only answer, right? It's really like, as you come to this world, everything is new. So you're like, I don't know. And that's what makes us thrive. It makes us really kind of, if you think about the progress that we make in our early years on all aspects, it's insane. But it all stems from, and it's not obviously not purposeful, it's just how we're designed to operate, of I'm walking in a world where I don't know. so I'm so open. They say kids are sponges, right? But I'm so open because we are in love with I don't know at that point. Not conscious. It's not something they do on purpose, but and I think also it's not about them. Up to when you get to school, I saw my kid, like you put him in a room or a nursery, he would see the balls, the people, the colors, like everything around him. It never occurred to him at any point. Like it's not like, oh, this ball, how is this ball gonna benefit me? Or, you know what I mean? But then our system, you go to school, you start hearing about how special you are and how much, your work is, or your grades. And we start thinking, oh, maybe it is about me, Maybe it's all this thing, it's about me. It's about what my parents think of me. It's about what my teachers think of me. Oh, and suddenly, if it gets on me, then I think like, oh, maybe I don't want to appear like I don't know. So and we start overriding these basic conditions we are made to thrive on, if it makes sense.
Yeah. A thought came to me was like, okay, Nico, so how many hours should I not know stuff for maximum potential and usage, right? Like, how do I turn this into a strategy? And versus just recognizing like, oh, if you really can see that when you start with I don't know, the world, you are already in alignment with one of the greatest natural phenomenons in the universe, which is you operating in your consciousness. Like that's where it's at. That's where the juice is at.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's an exercise I sometimes do, like in groups that I run over time, and like I always love in one way or the other to get people in either pairs or smaller groups, and then have them co-create something over the course of, let's say, maybe a month. Right? So this is not just in the sessions. Okay, great, guys. Between now and in a month when we speak again, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just no pressure. Just make sure it's incredible and awesome and outstanding. But
no pressure.
but just co-create something, right? And every time I run this exercise, what I love is to hear. So how I don't. It's cute. It's lovely, of course, to see what the creation is, but is to like, okay, so what did you notice? And there are a lot of things that they describe as obvious. Like, of course, it was so nice because I came in and I had this idea, but at the same time, then, I wanted to make sure the other person, so I changed it. I wasn't expecting to go that direction. And there's a lot of elements when they describe this process that look really obvious. And then it's so nice to point out and say like, hey, but this openness to, for example, deviating from my idea, right? Because of being open and receptive, right? So it's the notion that this is not about you, just the very fact that the game is set up as a co-creation, it's obvious from the beginning. This is not me, right? At the very least, it's us, right? The two of us or whatever. And then it's also obvious, I tell them, look, it's about the process. So it's not even about you group being better than the other group, it's just about exploring. And it's incredible that just with these two little things, what people start experiencing and they start creating. And sometimes it's been incredible because actually stuff got created and then really remained. And people are like, oh my God, I always wanted to launch a podcast, but I never thought about this. And now, boom, and this thing exists. But then we reflect and I point out that the potential for bringing this co-creation, this openness, this I don't know, this being willing to deviate and not making it about me is always possible, because really, in a way, whatever we do, we're always co-creating with life. So here's the funny thing. If you and I are co-creating, I think about the project, I come here and I say, hey, Nico, and I was thinking maybe we could do this. And then you say, yeah, Nico, that's nice, but I think maybe we could put that. And how I see that is, oh yeah, makes sense. We're co-creating. So, okay. But if I have an idea of my business and my projects, like, okay, I decided it's going to go like this, and I show up to life and something happens. I don't get the funds I wanted, or I don't, someone in my team. Well, instead of seeing that as life's input in the co-creation, so go with it. Like okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I thought I would go like that, but now this is happening. So cool. We see that as an obstacle. We see that getting in the way. So we start resisting it, which is in this example would be the same as arguing with your teammate constantly. Like, why are you saying that? I want to go left. Why are you, and it's beautiful when we start seeing the potential of co-creating, the benefits of co-creating, which not by coincidence means coming from, I don't know, openness and not about me, are available always.
I have like 3 questions. Number one, what's the exercise? Because you talked at length about it. And I think for people listening, I think they might be curious about what the exercise is.
Well, very, 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 very simply is I get them into pairs or 3 groups of 3. And I just, within 30 days or any time frame, it's not one day, I get them, hey, between now and next time, just co-create something and then you'll present to the group. It's that simple.
Just go make something from nothing, right?
Yeah, but as a couple, right? Or and we talk. I guess more than the exercise, what makes the difference, the context before when I make sure that we get that element of co-creation, and and pointing the attention to the process rather than, really make it clear it doesn't matter.
Got it.
But the exercise is incredibly simple, which means that literally you could go today, pick a person and say, hey, what happens if we give ourselves 30 days and we commit to co-creating something? What do you mean? What? Doesn't matter. We want to play? I promise you, it sounds simple and this can't possibly be transformative. It freaking is.
Okay. And I guess that was so cool. I forgot what my second question was. No, I guess my second question is, I wonder if you have any like case studies to share or client stories to share who you have helped play more in co-creating and play more in not knowing or unknowing. Like, what have you seen and how impactful has it been?
Yeah. Like, yes. And what comes to mind is kind of most recently, I work often with like people having their own projects, right? Like whether it's entrepreneurs or smaller or bigger creative endeavors. And 2 that comes to mind was very interesting. One was writing a book, so not a business, but kind of launching this book. And it was incredibly interesting to look at what happens when we start wondering about what we start from. An exercise that I remember was to look at what are all the givens? Okay. And I asked them to really go even with the most obvious. What I mean is,
for people who don't know what a given is,
basically, about the book, well, given that a book has to have a cover, given that a book has to have chapters, what then? And we listed all of them, even the most obvious. And starting to wonder, like, okay, well, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like, yeah, probably the book needs to have a title or a cover, but what happens? What if it wasn't true? And you start opening. That's a great place to start, to open up to novelty. So to co-creation, because you start being like, this really looks true to me, but I'm starting to open up to maybe, no matter how true it looks to me, maybe there's something else possible. So in the book creating was incredible, because what ended up being, then they started adding and designing and composing music, with the chapters, and there was also like this part became actually way more than a book, to the point that, yeah, cool, the book, but we realized along the way that the book has never been the point. And then this person is kind of starting, like, workshops, and it was never about the book. But it's incredible how many more possibilities for what we're doing open up as we, as I work with someone to start going back to, what if we really don't know anything, including, I need a title for this, including I'm even writing a book. And the willingness of seeing what happens, like, oh, the editor did this, or I got this pushback from the thing. And rather than resisting it, seeing that as an act of co-creation. Okay, cool. So your partner in crime, life, proposed this. Okay, great. So how do we roll with that? How do we, it's incredible, because what started as, oh yeah, I have this book I'm writing for a while and I want to finish it, became a completely different trajectory for their life, opening up really something they didn't even consider doing in their future. It was gorgeous.
The story or an image comes to mind is I think when we travel, right, and we arrive at somewhere we've never been, or to a country where we don't speak the language, we do get in that state of mind where we don't know, and we are hyper aware of our surroundings, and we're like what is this food, like we like smell it, we're like poking at it, like we do like this kind of very human and natural thing, and it looks so innocent, but to me that's us thriving in the moment when we don't know, and we're kind of poking around at stuff, and we're like, well, what is this, like, and I just think I saw just now how valuable it is to intentionally go back to that space in your business, in your life, in your relationships. Like, what if I didn't know this person, or I was just more curious about my partner, or if I was more curious, taking a step back, slowing down, and being more curious about my business, what opportunities would show up, or what opportunities would I see that life has been trying to show me all along. And I think we said it before I pressed record, and you talked about, you asked clients, what do you want to create in this life? And you also asked them, what does life want from you? Like, I'd love for you to speak more to that, because I think it does point to us being made to thrive and life wanting things from us. Could you speak more to that?
Absolutely. And I love it. Such a cool exploration. One thing on the travel, because I think that's exactly it, what you were saying, and what happens when we're kind of traveling. Don't you think it's funny that travel is often one of the most, the most amazing treats we can think for? We all crave it. Like, oh, I love traveling. I feel great when I travel. Like, no, we never connected the dots. We always thought it was about being on an airplane or on a train,
or the beach or the mountains.
But no, actually, the reason we love it so much is because it's sort of a coming home. It's like we're back to that place where we operated our best. We're back in the being okay, not knowing, in the discovery. We're back in the co-creation. We're back into, when I'm traveling, it's not about me. It's actually everything about the people of the place, the language,
food, the smell. Because like, what is this? What, like, you just want to try it. Like,
I am irrelevant when I'm traveling, my ego is so and we never connected the dots. How, like, I don't know, 90% of people around the world love and crave and spend money to travel because it's so good. And we just always thought it was, as you studied at the beach or the thing. No, it's because we're back in that mindset, in that come from where we are made to thrive. So I mean, I love that you pointed it out, because I think a lot of this stuff we're discussing, it's really like right under our nose. Sometimes it's just a matter of connecting the dots to really like, oh man, you're right, actually,
I want to point to something too, a premise that I saw speaking to Fiona yesterday, and she was on a podcast episode about the nature of wisdom. And I'd love for you to speak about thriving, because I think, to me, right, like, I think there's also this premise of, well, if I just learn how to thrive with life, everything will work out with peach color and like rosy music, and I don't know about you, but for me, so like, I think thriving through life has also meant going through some very hard things and hard experiences, even though I felt like, well, I'm aligned with life. Like, I'm not knowing stuff, but like, things are still hard. Like, what do you think that's about? Or is it because we have a given about thriving as well?
Like, a lot of it is about what we mean by that, obviously, I think. And I think it's about a misunderstanding of using how we feel, as in, not our deeper knowing, but really kind of, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm nervous, as a meaningful compass to navigate life. And so it seems obvious, like, oh, okay, this is making, you know, I'm sad, so this must be wrong. Oh, I'm happy, this must be right. Yeah, you know, and that's where I think start getting a bit kind of messy.
Like what came to mind is you can be happy doing all the wrong things.
Yes,
Right?
exactly. And eventually you're not thriving.
Yeah, until you're not thriving. So I think that's a good expression. Like just because you're in this knowing and you're thriving, it doesn't mean things are always going to be peachy. Like they're like, that's the thing too. I think like, and this goes back maybe to another conversation, kind of working with when you start working with life. I personally believe like life puts you on certain experiences to help you grow in certain ways. Maybe that's just my own experience, but that's the way it seems. Like I've definitely felt I've been pushed and guided in certain ways and gone through stuff and come out the other end, but like, okay, I see what I had to learn there.
What if, and it's literally popping in the moment, this thought. What if it's not, you know, life putting something in front of you, so you learn your lesson and then you try, but it's that anytime we actually engage and get in life, even when it's uncomfortable, you know, we go back to the place where we're made to try. So it's almost like, you know, something happens to you, and because you engage it, like you're co-creating, you're trying to find your way through it. Well, then of course I try, because that is exactly all I need to thrive, is to be back in life, to not, you know, to let go of what I think I know. Because often, you know, when usually we often talk about it in terms of I learned a lesson, which is code for saying I thought I knew something and now I don't.
Oh, I love that. I love that perspective of I learned a lesson was code for I thought I knew what this was about, but really, like
it's always that. Right?
I was shown more about this thing I thought I knew.
Yeah, and every time, just like with traveling, everything, that's all it takes. That's where my hope comes from, because it's really immediate. Like as soon as we step into a place where like we're okay, like, oh yeah, maybe I don't know, and we're willing to stay with it and look. Anytime we step into a place where, oh yeah, you know what, it's not about me. And often in those hardships in life, we get to that point where really, you know, maybe we touch the bottom like so deep that we let go even of our egos. Or like, okay, you know, I'm not even gonna bother about that anymore. I'm kind of trying to just see what's around me and climb back. Every time that is not about us, that we are okay not knowing, boom, we try. But not necessarily because, oh, you see, yeah, you needed that challenge. It could be anything. Like you don't, which is good, because otherwise it would kind of suck, because it means that we need to go through breakups and illnesses. That's our only way to thrive. That doesn't sound like a good setup.
Yeah, now that you said it out loud, it doesn't sound like that great.
You're like, okay, bring it life. What's my next?
Bring it on life. Like next terrible thing to happen with me, right? Like I'm ready to thrive.
Yes, exactly. Ready for some thriving. Yes.
I love the smell of thriving in the morning.
So what do you do? Why, you know, I usually sort of like, I don't know, like try to throw myself in the middle of the road, hoping that I get into an accident, because that would be really good. If I break some bones, that's going to make me thrive really well, you know. Which we do. This culture of, you know, hardship makes you stronger is in a way one of the reasons, very weird fascination we have for hardship. And I think it was Michael Neal or something, I heard when he was saying like, we do tend to value more things that are hard. Yeah. But then it's not surprising if in my head, in my world, value is to be found in hardship, then like obviously I create a hard life for me.
Yeah, right? and like nowhere was that written in the manual. Of when right? It's like, by the way, if you want a valuable life, like go for the hardest shit you can, like just make shit really hard, and at the end you'll get a medal. Right? Like we make that shit up. Yeah.
But you know what? Like, I don't know. This is silly. So when I was a kid, like I don't know, I got to with my band. We played with this band we really liked, right? and we got into this big venue. It was our first concert. We actually never rehearsed even before. It was really like, but I just thought it would be so cool. And what happened is literally I called. I just found the phone number in an album, and I just called the band. Right? That's it. Because then the band said like, oh, if you don't want to be paid and the venue is okay for us, it's good. Then I called the venue and said like, oh, the band wants us to play with them. And they said like, oh, if the band is okay and you don't want to be paid, that's okay. And and that was it. But people, you say, oh my God, that's amazing. How did, you got to play at that level in that club, you're 15. And to me, it was like, there was the tendency of this kind of like, oh, I just made a phone call.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost like it doesn't count. It was amazing. It was such an incredible achievement. But I didn't spit blood for it. So it's sort of like, no, I just sent an email. But that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if it was hard or not, right?
Yeah. And I guess to lead back to the point of you were made to thrive, I think that story is a beautiful example of not knowing, not making it about you, and just co-creating with life and just seeing what happens, right? And then if it is hard, that is such a good clue to go back to those three things. Like where have you made it? I don't want to say it like that way. Like where in you does it look like? Yeah, what does it look like to me? Like what about this looks hard to me? And just being curious, like, well, I wonder if it wasn't, or what if I started from scratch? Like what if I clean slate? And I think that's what's so cool and also kind of frustrating about this conversation of you were made to thrive is, well, actually I just realized that thrive is kind of a loaded word, and number two, it's so anticlimactic. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's not like this orgasm, like, oh my God, yes, I am thriving. It's like, it's more about like, I don't really know about this, and making space for to see something new.
Totally. Yes. One thing I used to say like to my clients are like, well, look, the only thing I think I can help with that, and we can have this program, this journey. However, if you're hoping for feeling kind of like a superhero and get your cape on and feeling really, proud about like how hard you fight, you might have to let that go. It's not that's just the sacrifice, kind of the trade-off is to not needing that sense of like, oh yeah, like I'm a superhero, it is anticlimactic sometimes, but I think that what's on the other side is so much bigger that who cares really.
Tell me more about on the other side being so much bigger.
Well, like to kind of connect that with the question that then we didn't answer when you asked me about what does life want from you, right? I think it's linked, because I think again, first of all, it's a question we rarely ask ourselves. In the question, it's built in all of the things that we discussed, because it's a question where you must start from, I don't know, like it's just that there cannot be an obvious answer. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, life wants from me this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a question where we already naturally come in from a wondering place, never a certainty place. It's like, well, I don't know. Usually that's how the answer starts. Well, I don't know, but I guess, we use things like, well, I guess, I wonder, maybe. So go ahead.
I just saw something there. I just realized there are two ways to approach I don't know to kind of support what we're talking about. Is, as I've noticed sometimes when I ask clients a question, it's like, I don't know. But in there, I don't know, there's a sense of urgency of like, well, I need to know. And there's a sense of like, I don't know is bad, right? And then you can approach I don't know, it's like, I don't know. Like there's a sense of wonder, like you said, about a wondering behind it that opens up space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's playful. But again, provided that you don't feel like it's not about like, feeling, but if I don't know, it means that I suck. You know what I mean? But when we're okay, it's fun. And another thing is built into the question is, it's not about you, just in the question. What does life want from it? So it's really built in, this thinking that it's not more about like, well, what do I want? What do I need? It's like, So I think first of all, it's a question that it's a really great place to start to reconnect with that place where, and to feel that we're made for thriving. Just by exploring it, like just by sitting with this question, you are already you get closer to whatever you experience when you travel. Because so that's already the beauty of that question. And then I guess the third thing, which maybe right, here's the thing. I don't think concepts by themselves are useful at all. The risk in these conversations is to stop there, right? It's to like, oh, guys, I got it. Thank you. This was an awesome.
I don't know. I'll see you later.
Right? Like, oh, okay. So, I'm going to try to say, I don't know more often. Like sometimes, when we talk about shoes with clients, then suddenly it becomes like a word they can't use. Like, oh yeah, it's not that I should. It's like, it becomes, and it's not about that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes one of the hazards of the job, as I see it, is that we go straight to telling how the mind works, right? So like, oh, here, you're made to thrive. So as your thinking kind of slows down, there's space for new thought. And that's where, but it's easy to keep that at a conceptual level, right? And none of it is conceptual. So this question invites towards engagement. And in my experience, and this is just my hunch, this is not by all means like not true necessarily, but it looks true to me. It's that at the end of the day, if someone would say, okay, but so what do I do? What do I do? I want more of that. I want to learn. I want to touch that place. If there was one thing I would say is engage, take part, participate in whatever, right? What and then you whatever it is, like, but where do I engage? I don't know. Your marriage, right? What does it look like if today, only today, you make it about taking part, like just engaging with your marriage, and whatever that looks to you, go for it. Engaging with your community, engaging with your colleagues, like just that sense of being heartfelt presence, like let go of everything else. It doesn't matter your expectation. It doesn't matter what you want. Is look at what's in front of you, whether you like it or not, and just throw yourself in it. That is, to me, the felt place where all of this stuff we discussed for 45 minutes are embodied.
The image that comes to mind is like, I think we got it from our mutual mentor, Michael Neal, where like you have a flip chart, right? And you paint something on it, and you're trying to do everything to make the painting or picture look better by painting over it and over it and over it and trying to make it look better, when you could just turn the page and engage in it anew with a blank canvas. Right, in your business. So, well, given my business, blah, 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 blah. Like, well, what if you showed up fresh to your business and just got curious and see what occurred, right? And I think it is a challenging conversation in a world where we're so used to, well, tell me what to do. And what we're pointing to is start fresh. If anything, like give yourself a fresh start and see what naturally occurs to you. Engage in a new way. Like we're not telling you how to engage better. We're asking you to reset and restart and engage from a new place, a new vantage point.
Yeah, once I heard my business partner say, there's a lot of talking about, what if you would live to experience today like it was your last day? What would you do? There's that sense like of urgent, like, yeah, go. It's there. And I loved, like, what you pointed out, like, what? I think a cooler question is, what if you would spend today like it was your first?
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah. What if you spent your day like today was your first day?
Right, which means all the stuff you're saying, kind of, you would approach everything anew, but also you would have this sense of space. Like, I have a lifetime ahead of me. Right? And you kick this urgency up. For me, one of the best productivity hacks that the people are shocked, but then when they give it a go and we actually work on it, it makes a difference. Is actually it's the opposite of deadline. It's like, can you get into this project like you had 15 years to finish it. I can't
Preach.
tell you the ridiculous, like you would imagine, like, yeah, if I would do that, oh my God, I would never do anything because I need deadlines to work well. But what happens once you start actually getting into that experience, that we remove the pressure, we remove all sort of stuff, and suddenly we're way more creative. We feel we can try stuff because, you know, if I try this and it doesn't work, I have time.
I have 15 more years.
Right?
Yeah.
But guess what? Without pressure, we giving us permission to try new things. Bringing that playfulness, lo and behold, we got there much faster. You know, so it's funny.
I wonder if that points to a clue, like a clue to how we're made to function in that space, in that type of engagement where, like, we don't do really well when we're strung up on stress and pressure most of the time. But to what you're pointing to is, we do surprisingly well when we're okay, when we're sitting in our well-being.
Yeah. I think the problem, like what can be misguiding, is that one, we look around, we find proof of all the times that we kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then we got somewhere, right? And it looks like we got there thanks to our pushing rather than in spite of. Yeah. And one thing one image I shared recently in an article in a way is like, you know, I think even on global change and stuff, the problem is that we've been punching with our bare hands this wall and again and again and again, broken fingers and lost hands and arms, like, but every now and then, when you punch a wall really hard with your fingers for 1,000 times, you can breach it, right? You can actually get through. And the misunderstanding there is thinking like, oh, you see, this is working. We just need to punch harder.
Yeah.
Right. And we miss out on the fact that there are way better ways when we work in alignment with how we're designed to work. Oh man, because we don't see that, it gets really scary if someone comes to you and say, I'm inviting you to stop punching the wall. It's really scary. Yeah. Because you're like, what am I going to do after? You know, like, what? It's the only thing I have. Yeah. All I can do is punching the wall. You're telling me to not punch the wall. Yeah. And that's why we resist it.
I think that is such a beautiful place to wrap up our conversation, actually. And I wanted to ask if you had maybe any last points or musings you wanted to share before we complete our conversation.
Yes, just a very simple invitation for anyone's listening to just take part in your life. Just to spend more time really being there. I had this thought about even me my job is often talking about life. And I just realized, but I don't want, in 10 years to look back and say like, oh, wow, I spent 10 years talking about life and I haven't experienced it. I think that at the end of the day, what matters is to engage with life. And my closing thought is coming from a line in a song of an old Italian singer-songwriter from, I don't know, 30 years ago, which says, freedom is participation.
Ooh, that's good.
So that's kind of the invitation I would like to share.
All right. Well, yeah, that was an awesome exploration of that we were made to thrive. And I guess for me is just to reiterate what you said, like freedom is participation. And that's a really great place to start. And before I let you do your plug, I'm going to plug you because just to let everybody know, like Nico is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. He is such a wonderful and powerful coach, as you've experienced on this call. And he's going to tell you all about where to find him. And if you'd love more creativity in your life, more freedom, more impact, please, please, please talk to Nico. He will hook you up and he will help you blow shit up in a way that just makes your heart happy. And I just remembered his nickname because his hair grew out. So backstory. When I first met Nico, he had this like long, like even longer hair. And I was like, Italian Jesus. And Nico was like, whatever floats your boat, man. And I was like, yes. And then he cut his hair, but now it's long again. And we're back to that nickname. So if you'd like to hang out with the Italian Jesus, my favorite Italian coach, he's going to tell you where to hang out with him.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah, like as we said at the beginning, I think it would be lovely if you guys get in touch. And definitely in no way, I think it's a possibility of also reading more, so you kind of and engaging there, and we can get in touch. So noway.substack.com and or easiercoaching.com. That's kind of where you find me. And yeah, Italian Jesus is there. Come visit.
Get you some magic.
Man,
right.
Thank you so much. This is super fun. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye.